Morning. It is Wednesday, October 5th, 2022. My name is Barbara With, and you are here with me and the party of 12, including none other than Albert Einstein. And also joining us will be the Psychic Sorority. And we're going to today delve into this idea of being a witness to yourself. What does that mean? How does that really practically look like in a day for someone to pay attention to what you're thinking and paying attention to what you're feeling and paying attention to what your intuition is telling you? And to do all that, you need to have a witness. So we're going to be batting that around in the conversational court. And then, of course, we'll open up the channel to the party and see what they have to say. So glad you're here, and welcome to the party. First of all, I will not be America's next great author.
Did you join a competition?
I did. It was called America's Next Great Author.
Oh, wow.
And it was right after I was playing around with manifesting some intentions to visualize the manifestation of some particular dreams of mine. And so then in came this contest, and it led to so many other amazing things. I submitted a story I wrote about autism, and it reconnected me with all of that research I had done about that, and the people I had based the story on reconnected in my life. And so there's a lot of things that happened because of it. But when I got the reject letter on October 1st, they immediately offered me another thing to buy. I was thinking back to our conversations about being commoditized and how it's fun to enter these things, but then they're selling you something afterwards. And ultimately they're looking for something that fits into a bestseller, mold, which is something I've never done. So it wasn't any great loss. And I thought, how much fun. So showing us just how powerful we are but ultimately in the long run, if we're working for the good of the whole, I see that not as any sacrifice that I didn't win that contest, So
no, that avenue may be too mainstream, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a better way to get that work out.
But it kind of launched you out too, with that story, because that story has to be told right now. It's needed. People are open to that, and they're wanting to. More and more autistic children every day need your help.
Yes, how it opened me up and opened me back up to that autistic thing. And then I came across this book called Underestimated: An Autistic Miracle. And it's the true story of a man who had a son just like the non-speaking son in my story, and also in real life that I based it on, and a form of therapy that totally revealed that they really were what I had written them to be, these kind of brilliant. And when they are given a way to communicate, it's a special kind of spelling thing that they figured out about learning, autistic learning, that allowed them to start spelling. J.B. Handley, and then his son, and it reads that J.B. Handley, he's the best-selling author of How to End the Autism Epidemic, and he founded Generation Rescue, dedicated to autism recovery. And then his son, Jameson, is an 18-year-old non-speaker who was diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. Thanks to a new communication method called spelling to communicate, Jameson is now able to fully communicate and switched from a life skills class to a regular academic classroom at his high school and will be graduating in 2022. He plans to attend college and study neuroscience.
Beautiful. What's the name of that book again?
Underestimated: An Autism Miracle. That got me excited because it just confirmed everything that I speculated about in it.
I echo what Debbie said, that, you know, the world is ripe and ready and open to anything about this field. I have a young friend doing her PhD in the field.
So in my story, of course, there was no explanation for how it was done. In this true life story, there is this process that has repeatedly brought these autistic people who couldn't speak into a whole new way of communicating. Anyway, I still am I consider myself to be one of America's next greatest authors. Anyway, whether they do
Yeah.
or not.
I ditto that.
So
Well, the thing is, you already are, so you don't have to be next. There you go.
I
Yeah.
am America's next greatest
That's right.
author.
Exactly.
So, but I wanted to talk today a little bit about the witness. I was thinking about this after one of the sessions we had with where Linda was expressing her desire to have a mastery over the frustration and the anger that she was having. And I felt a little bad. I thought maybe I was jumped on her a little bit when she kind of said, I thought maybe if I'm saying he doesn't respect me, maybe it's like, not maybe, that is the revolution to take, to look back at ourselves. And then I started thinking, but how do we do that? What does that mean actually to witness oneself in the course of a day, in the course of a moment? And I started to, when I was having these questions of how do you articulate what that process is to someone, like, are there step-by-step instructions for how you witness yourself? How do you witness yourself? I have, of course, a ton of ideas just from trying to describe my own experience of it. But I wonder what you guys think. Is that something that you strive to do in a day? Is it something that's kind of second nature at this point? Is it?
Yes and yes for me. And sometimes I'm really glad that people don't know this work, so they can't call me up on it. You know, what I'm doing, if you will, you know. I spend most of my time alone and in a quiet setting. I don't have the radio on or the TV or music. So I'm looking at what's going on. I'm in my garden, or I'm in the house, or I'm walking. So there's a lot of kind of no interference to what I'm thinking and what I'm observing. So that is something I do. And my intention is always to remain neutral, to not be judging, to allow what is, to you know, my daily intention is to align my thoughts, words, actions, and interactions with love and compassion for myself, for everyone else, and all it is. And so, and I do that daily so I can remember that. I can remember to keep trying to do that, and then watching myself when I don't do that. Being alone is easy, right? It's easier than when you're interacting with even people you love and you want to be with, kind of thing. And but I have intentionally decided not to be with people who are complaining all the time about things, complaining, and staying in that vibration.
I was thinking to the first time I became aware of something of a witness was, we had just done one of the first group readings we did back in the 1994, back then. And they had said, if you're engaged in a conflict and you have an emotion around it, that the root of it is within you. But when they went on further to talk about emotion, to try to experience emotion more like an electricity. And they said, try to remove the description and the story behind it and just be with it. And so I was at the gym, and I think I was pissed at Teresa or something. And I was, doing my usual projection. And in that moment, I remembered what they said. And I was able to see that I had that emotion. And what would that feel like? And it literally, everything shifted into like it was little bits of electricity running underneath my skin. But I had that aha moment of, wow, emotion is something different than I thought I had. But that couldn't have happened unless I was witnessing myself. I think what's interesting about the idea of witness is that, like a witness called in a court case, they can change the whole outcome of everything by providing an eyewitness account rather than just hearsay or conjecture. So witness is one who has seen or heard something, one who furnishes evidence. And evidence, data on which a judgment or conclusion is based, or by which proof may be established. To support by testimony, to indicate clearly, exemplify, or prove. So it's basically sounds like the one who provides the proof of the truth of what's going on. Because, for example, we can think that we're honest. And, for the most part, I would say you are honest people. But we lie to ourselves all of the time. As long as we're living in our heads with this definition of how honest we are, we don't get to have a way to step out to see when we're not so honest. So the witness brings that truth past conjecture, past who we think we are. And yeah, it's hard to sometimes see when you find yourself lying. It's an emotional discovery.
Isn't it sometimes a question of how serious we take ourselves? I myself, I'm actually a very passionate and sometimes explosive person, but I play in a way with this explosivity because sometimes when I see something that is not good, just for example in my work, when I have a nurse who is giving me the wrong instruments and everything, I'm talking to her quite sharply and pointed and but when she gives me the right thing, I can make a joke after that, so then it loosens it up again, because it's actually, I get the emotion out in a way, but it's not a personal thing. I don't have any aggression against her, but against her behavior towards me, or against her not being concentrated or not doing the job good enough. So I think we sometimes have to differentiate how we use our feelings and why we get annoyed, why we get irritated, why we get a little bit explosive, and then is it bad actually to be a little bit annoyed? I think it's in the right place, because if it's not focused on the person and only on the behavior, and why can we not, if we are aware of a certain form and a certain thing, why can we not play with this just to get each other a little better? Both communication, better performance, better everything. With this aggression, not really aggression, but with this pointed language, you can push another person. If I get some push from a superior and he says, Heike, you're not, that is not blah 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 blah, and I get a tiny little shock, but then I want to be, I perform better because I know he didn't say it because he wants to crush me. He said it because I was not good enough right there in my performance, but not as a person. I think we have to differentiate sometimes, and we tend, even me too, we tend to take things personal that are actually not personal. And if we can make the differentiation better, if we witness ourselves, like you say, we can play with it in a different, it's this play where we can learn, and when we take ourselves so serious, then we don't learn anything.
I concur with my experience of it, to be able to use that passion in a way that might not be comfortable to the person experiencing it, but certainly not about anything but opening up or bringing more information or making one aware of a need that needs to be filled. Like, we need you to fill this need. I think somehow oddly, I relate that to the frustration then that I have with the people who've been brainwashed and are still there. It's like, I have this need for you to figure this out. Once again, pointing back to myself.
As what was shared, I use my witness similarly. And lately to see, even though I spend a lot of time alone too, how I will respond to myself. You know, it'll be like, you bitch, what did you do that for? And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, what did you just call me? And, you know, what's a better way that I can, you know, approach this? And call myself, you know, give myself some slack, and you know, it's no wonder I, you know, or it's a wonder why I beat myself up all the time, but I have to catch myself, and that's the witness, you know, having to say, okay, you know, you need to treat yourself a little more respectfully, and have a little, you know, more fun with this instead of taking everything so damn seriously.
I saw a quote once that I loved. It said, life is far too important to take seriously. And the idea to live joyfully and have fun, that's not how most of us were raised, but that just lightens everything up for everybody when we do that. Yeah, when we can do that. When I send a card, and I send a lot of cards, I usually say, you know, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving full of fun, full of joy, like fun, laughter, fun, more fun, kind of whatever that means to the person.
I was talking last night to some friends, new friends, very wonderful couple, very wonderful women. And we got pretty deep, but we were talking about trauma, and we were talking about what happens in a child's life when there's this trauma going on, and the kind of the split, that there's this flight or fight response of present moment, but part of us leaves and dissociates to have a different viewpoint. And for all of my life, any of the sexual trauma that I witnessed was from that point. And when you look down upon that act, it was, oh, you know, oh, that poor girl is going to be so damaged. But I had a vision once. It was actually right before the quantum leap. I had this vision that I was there. I'd gone all the way back, regressed myself all the way back to those moments when I was being abused. And I turned and I looked at him. And for the first time, I was looking from my body. And instead of thinking that I'm damaged goods, I witnessed that I, you know, at that age, which was very young, I was the shining, bright, creature, this child, this special magical, I could see the party like they were there, and looking at him going, wow, something happened to you. You're the one who's messed up for doing this to this beautiful creature. So in that case, the witness was a pretty profound moment for me of that kind of witnessing experience of,
That's a hugely valuable perspective to be able to take. Everyone who comes here with the human intention knows and forgets that we're coming here to deal with conflicts, and our conflicts make us who we are in essence, and expand us and evolve us and so on. That's the whole point of everything here, right? And we're meant to feel all of it. Like this is the planet of, the full range of emotion. And I think beings that live on other planets or elsewhere that don't have that, that's why this planet is such a magnet, especially now that we're
because of the
moving.
depth of the emotions
Yep.
that we get to feel.
Yep. And try not to get stuck in this process of, understanding the value, the beauty, and the power of feeling all of them and using them and breathing them through. It sounds so easy, it sounds simple, but it's a hugely valuable practice, powerful. And that's what's shifting everything, right?
And I think if we don't have this complete huge specter of emotions, then we cannot do what we came here for to do. Because Barbara, if you wouldn't have gone through these experiences, you would never been where you are today. And we can even compare it. If you have a lover the first time, it's so different from having a lover today. It's not even comparable, because we are so different, so much more conscious about what we are. We always have been what we are, but we are more conscious about what we are, and that what makes us to the awareness about these feelings and about the depth of all the things makes us to this powerful creatures we finally want to be. And we are.
Yes, I am that powerful creature. Anything less than that is a lie.
Yes.
That's where we lie to ourselves the most.
Exactly. After I had that experience where I was able to look at my father in that way and go, oh, I had some compassion in my heart, is allowed me to spend the rest of my life while he was alive, not resenting or attached or projection, or I was able to forego all of that with him and have that little piece of compassion that I felt for him. And then when he died, I was at peace. So was like a prototype for how I want to do with people who aren't dead or like have no attachments to anybody in that way. Find that bit of compassion for them and put them on that outside circle and wish them well on what's happening in their lens.
And that I've read is the definition of unconditional love: to just be neutral, to allow people to be who they are, not to condone or participate in anything that doesn't feel good and, for the highest good, but to allow everybody their own path. So yeah, you can certainly extract yourself from situations and people that aren't, for the highest good from your perspective.
We're just naturally attached to things and people and dramas, and because it's part of the drama, it's all part of it, this is it. But how to live in it, but not of it. That's what I think that witness is so good for, because as soon as you step out of yourself, or you make whatever intention that you're going to, okay, now I'm going to watch. And then all you have to do is go, well, what am I thinking? Let's look at my thoughts. What are my thoughts saying? Am I going to listen to my thoughts? Let's see what they're saying. What am I feeling? What's down here? That's all witnessing oneself. And every time that we choose to use some sort of positive, powerful, regenerative affirmation in our thought processes while anger is coming up or whatever, something to keep it moving and loving it and blessing it and being thankful for it, the more powerful it becomes, that flow of emotion. And it's what you were saying, Heike, about this is our access to our power. We can do anything. We can do anything. All right. Well, let us see what Einstein and the party have to say. Let's take a few deep breaths together. Slow down. Pay attention to the sound of your breath going through your lungs, in and out. And be one with that breath. Know that that breath is your root. It's what roots you into the physical environment. And we will command that only the most divine light shine down upon us at this time, and that only the greatest good be present here. So that breath, that first indication of spirit bringing life, filling up your body with all of that energy needed to be alive. That breath is such a simple thing, but it's the most important. And when you take the time to witness yourself, if you want to know where to begin, you begin with the breath. You begin by taking time to listen to and be with and influence your breathing in and out, the exhale and the inhale that gives you life in the first place. And we've reduced it down to this tiny of a step, because there isn't much smaller of a step than a breath compared to the many, many big, giant leaping steps that you think you need to make in life. This one first step of witnessing your breath brings you back to your center, brings you back to focusing on your own source before it hits the lens. Yes, we're talking about when you focus on your own source, which includes, but is not limited to, the void, the nothingness from which you arise miraculously into the source, and then surrounded by your own compilation of consciousness that sends out that gravitational wave up to the surface and into this miraculous creation of the lens of human existence as projected and perceived through your own physical body. Your witnessing of that non-physical part of you and experiencing the source has a profound effect upon what that body that's being created there is experiencing through the lens of the manifestation of that vision of you. This practice that we hope to inspire people to take on is the most powerful practice you can have, where you are in charge of you and you have accepted that responsibility with all the love in your heart and the passion and the being honored to serve, to be responsible for this person that is you, for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your senses, for your decisions. And every breath you take, you can make a different decision. You have that capacity to create that world that you're visioning, where there is not only more joy, but more acceptance of the broad spectrum and more efficiency in how work gets done, more sustainable and safer use of your time, rather than beating yourself up, using up all that energy to have those negative judgments, put energy into beating yourself up and lying to yourself and wondering why you have conflict around you. When you take up that cause of becoming self-love, you simply must learn how to put down those voices of intellect that subject you to that kind of judgment and punishment. And in those tiny little spaces of the non-physical, which is part of that wave we're talking about, those little particles of thought processes that you can change yourself. Never underestimate the impact of those tiny little changes of thoughts. So, for example, you might be tackling some obsessive issue that you're just repetitively thinking about, and there's a discomforting emotion behind it. Never underestimate even the tiniest moments that you can shift into witness. And oftentimes you go back when you're in those kinds of obsessive moments. It's like sort of coming up for air, being tossed around on an ocean, where you can take that breath, but then you get sucked into the drama again and you're not breathing. Don't underestimate those times you come up for air. Those little times can be saving your life as you progress through your evolution. And oddly, it's the same analogy as you as a fish trying to throw yourself up onto land and live with another energy source coming out of a different organ and adapt. And that's what you can do. You can heal your body. You can heal your planet. You can do that. You have that capacity. You've all proven it to yourselves. So now is the time where you're gathering together and you're using the synergy of each other to connect with that greater good. And when you think of all the people who are praying for the greatest good, people who truly have no agenda other than the greatest good in their hearts, there's a huge, huge network of people like that. They're conflicted. They still, in their hearts, wanting to have the greatest good, they still get trapped into thinking that it's us versus them and we need to bomb this country. Those kinds of thoughts and reactions don't diminish from someone who truly wants the greatest good. What people are finding is that as they're praying for the greatest good, they're being led back to themselves, that the greatest good that they can do is to learn about their impact, their decisions, their life, what impact you're having in the world. From there, everything else blooms effortlessly. When people are working for the greatest good, the vision manifests effortlessly. And part of being dedicated to the greatest good is not being fooled into thinking that a particular event or conditions or situation or people have any more or less importance or weight than anything else, that your human mind can scale up good and evil. And there's a necessity for that, to understand that. But for those of you who are really seeking to be the greatest good you can be in this world with the depth that you know that you have and the power that you know that you have, this is a powerful, powerful movement. And so we don't want you to be discouraged because there's conflict going on around you. You are using that conflict to change the world. You're here to embed and implant yourselves as these humans to be able to make the most of what you have, to have the great gratitude for everything that is abundance, not just one form or another, to have the gratitude and recognition that that abundance is sourced within you, and you are learning like no other generation of humans have learned how to use that fire hose to manifest the greatest good in a time when it's deeply needed. And for that, we come to you every week to have you connect, to have you touch upon the synergy that you have here right at hand. For those people who are drawn to this, that its time has come where you hear it, where you're ready to step up and be that change. This is the time is now. And we are hoping that we can provide at most the transformational tools that you need to be able to witness yourself and take a mastery of yourself and dive into your intellect and see what those lies are and change them, transform them. It's like wrestling with your own black snake of lies in your mind, and clear out that space and understand the function of it. I understand the form and its relationship to both your intellect and your intuition. Get to know yourselves in those deep ways. You're setting a precedent and you're influencing generations to come. But more importantly, you're also influencing a world of energetic intention of the good of the whole that simply can't be stopped. It's the most powerful synergy that there is. In the weeks and months ahead that are coming, as you move into these times, as much as you can, you might find yourself in a state of detachment. It'll feel like a dream time state, even though you're in the middle of some clearly a physical world. Maybe you're at work or you're in a public place, or you're not just home alone, sort of zoning out. You're out there. But more and more comes over you this kind of dream-timey perspective. We like to call it the superimposition. It's really the interface where energy, the wave is coming up and it's coming through the exterior of the earth, and your body is being formed and all that energy is being projected out into the lens, and it's coming back for your body to perceive that place. That is a dream-timey overlay to what your human mind sees when it's just looking at the lens and the chair. And that's what you're growing into. And when you grow, while you're growing into this perspective, it takes some adapting to. because obviously you don't want to walk around in your life having responsibilities where you're just sort of in dream time. It is an adaptive phase that this is going through, so don't fret. But while you're there, feel yourself expanding past those norms of the 3 dimensions and the 5 senses of the lens of the physical world. And letting go of some of that can be frightening. It's that shape-shifting thing we talked about, where when you deprogram yourself deep enough into your subatomic, where I am a chair, that turns to that is a chair, that is a chair, can be manipulated by this much greater consciousness. Now you're able to change things in ways we can't explain today, but everything that you can do to let yourself be at that point where the world disappears, and see if your trust in yourself, your faith in the source that you are connected to, the truth that you know, that your birthright is compassion. And with or without this body, you have that birthright. And you have the power of creation, of creating another life, not just this life. When you lose this body as Jojo or as Barbara or as Teresa, and you lose this body, you still are a spinning string of conscious information and energy. And you have that power of redirect to form yet another life going in. That is the biggest miracle that exists, is the creation. And you are that. So witness that in yourself. Talk to your witness and tell them to find all the good stuff. Let's watch for this. Let's watch for the times when we don't react in such an overblown fashion. Let's watch for the times when we don't doubt ourselves. Be aware of the unification that's happening. Focus on that as well. Be able to move between the conflicted and the non-conflicted as a way of life. Be able to take your non-conflicted into a conflicted arena and have an outcome of the greatest good. And the beautiful part about that is that because you're working for the greatest good, you don't have to know. You don't have to know. You don't have to know how it's going to show up. You don't have to micromanage it to where you can't show up. All of this is leading to then that realization that you all, in fact, are one body. And feeling that in your body. And instead of thinking about, oh, I'm taking on this person's bad energy or that person's bad energy, think about it. I'm pushing out from my source this incredible energy into all of them. Think of yourself that way. You're not a victim. You're not at the mercy of something happening in the lens. That's the story that's being created in the math, in that non-physical place that you have access to. And now you know how to change. So continue to pay attention to the world around you as well. This is an extraordinary time. You are in extraordinary positions of perspective and personal power, and you have a great potential to influence for the good of the whole on a much larger level than you think or know. And we are here to help in any way that we can. So we'll open for any questions or a conversation you would like to have.
I like how you said to talk to the witness, to look for what we want to see, such as the unification within me and the world. And I like the detachment, being in the middle of the physical world, to not get caught up in the voices of the lies, and staying in compassion. I really appreciate that message. It just gets so frustrating because I just feel like I'm inching along. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going anywhere, or no one's really going anywhere. The world isn't going anywhere. We just keep going over and over and over the same stuff, and just not getting anywhere. And so that to me is frustrating. But I now will attach to my witness to look for this, and look for what I want to see, rather than what I am seeing and not wanting to see, or wanting to see more progress.
Yes, and the perspective of knowing that you're coming here to learn how to do this. It's not always an easy answer as to, well, why did I pick this? But to really bring an awareness to your conscious mind when you're going through those inching along phases, this is your purpose. It's your opportunity. It's your gift of creation. And the human mind, because it can't fully grasp the total, it can imagine what the whole rest of the operating system is, but it's stuck in the lens. It just can't imagine that big thing. And that's why you have to train it, because your body can, your emotions can, your intuition can feel the whole in a tactile way, but the mind doesn't. Those inching along is trying to turn that intellect, keep turning that intellect and feeling and breathing.
Hi, Jojo here. Just a couple of quick things, a couple of visuals that help me when I'm where you are, Debbie, at times. I appreciated your discussion. You're talking about the tiny shifts, the small particles of thought that help us move, change our perspective just a little bit. So the words that help me in the visuals are pivot. When you're in a place you don't want to be, it's not feeling good and you want a different perspective, just pivot like a ballerina and see a different view. And the other one is being in a ship, being in a boat, like a small boat, and just shift the rudder even 1 or 2 degrees in time. That makes a huge difference where you end up, where you're going, right? So just don't take on too much at once when you're feeling, stuck and bogged down. Just asking the witness to find those things that you want to see. That's a really great idea.
We're going to close the channel by saying that that witness is truly one of the most valuable tools that you can have, to have evidence and proof of who you are through your own observations of yourself. This is one of the most unifying fields that you can create for yourself. And in that unification, you attach to this greater synergy, and all of your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, your senses, all of your decisions, all of how you decide to deal with this turbulent life that you live is exemplified into a higher manifestation. You're helping to raise the consciousness. And yes, it's one tiny little fingernail baby step at a time. It will never stop being amazing if you choose to watch. Namaste.